I'm Norman Singleton, Vice President of Policy at Campaign for Liberty, a 501c4 grassroots organization devoted to individual liberty and limited constitutional government in all areas. Campaign for Liberty was founded in 2008 by Dr. Ron Paul, then Congressman Ron Paul. I like to call him doctor because congressman is sort of an insult. Doctor's kind of an honor. We are proud to support the Surveillance State Repeal Act, H.R. 1466. Anybody here who works for a member of Congress, I encourage you to talk to your boss and get them on the bill. Anyone here, if there's anyone here who works on the Senate side, please talk to your boss about introducing a Senate companion. We don't have a Senate companion yet.
Not yet,
do we?
next steps.
Like Patrick, I was on the Hill for working for Dr. Paul, who did vote against the Patriot Act. Russ Feingold was the only senator who opposed the bill. When it was passed, not only was it rushed through, but members literally did not have time to read the bill before it was voted on. There was a version different from that which passed out of the Judiciary Committee, introduced, I believe, actually the morning of the bill in Rules Committee, and then the vote was just less than maybe 3 or 4 hours afterwards. And you're talking about a bill this large that's not even available on the internet until almost right before the vote. There's no way that a member of Congress who voted for this bill could say, I know what I was doing when I voted for this bill. Afterwards, looking at the bill, one of the things that we noticed in our office was that a lot of that was very familiar. It was stuff that Justice Department had on a wish list of increased powers that they had been unable to get through a Republican Congress during the 1990s. They took advantage, never let a crisis go to waste. They took their wish list off the shelf, packaged it as anti-terrorism. There were members on the floor during the debate actually saying that if we don't pass this law immediately, there's going to be a series of terrorist attacks. The conference report was passed right as Congress was dealing with the anthrax scare, if anybody remembers that. We shut down for a week, we came back, we passed the conference report on Patriot Act. Again, nobody read the bill, nobody cared. Most members were very scared of terrorism. It's the worst possible time to do legislation affecting the basic rights of the American people. As, again, Patrick and I think one of the other speakers pointed out, it's not a collection problem, it was a connect the dots problem. This was not just the 9/11 Commission. There have been numerous observers and actually some whistleblowers who were working in the intelligence and law enforcement communities at the time who have said, we were trying to tell our superiors, look at the information we've got, there's something going on here in August of 2011, and they were ignored. How is creating mass surveillance going to solve the problem of someone turning a blind eye to what is clear, to what should be clear, or being unable to connect the dots? In fact, mass surveillance and bulk data collection can actually make it harder to spot real threats, because there's so much data coming in that they have to sift through that it's very easy for a real threat to fall through the cracks. It's almost as absurd as saying that you have to throw out your bottled water because it might be and not take it on an airplane because it might serve as an explosive device. So go ahead and walk by a long line full of passengers and throw it away, because no terrorist is ever going to think to blow up to cause an attack before they get through the TSA screening. But I guess that's a subject for another day. Remember, as was previously stated, the Fourth Amendment is there for a reason. It's not too much of a burden to ask that governments have a reason, have probable cause to launch surveillance of a citizen. That is actually why the Fourth Amendment is there. That's how this system is supposed to work. I've read the Fourth Amendment several times in my life, and I have never found except for terrorism, exception to the Fourth Amendment. The FISA court provisions in this bill, I think, are very important. I think anyone who's concerned about tying the hands of the government to go after legitimate threats, consider FISA has a history of, some would say, serving as a rubber stamp for the government at the very least, they have historically turned down very few government requests. There's no reason to think that the very reasonable and constitutional FISA reforms will cause legitimate warrant requests to be turned down at all. I'd also like to comment very quickly about another provision of this bill that prohibits the use of Executive Order 12333 to justify bulk collection. This is an executive order that was signed in 1981 by President Reagan. 1981. Who here had a cell phone in 1981? Who here even had a home computer in 1981, much less a computer with internet access, much less a tablet that you carried around with you? To use this executive order as a justification of bulk collection today, in today's environment, is completely inappropriate, and it's simply a way of getting around the need to ensure that data collection techniques comply with the Constitution and are authorized and, most importantly, overseen by your bosses, who are the people's elected representatives, who are supposed to keep a close eye on the executive branch. Finally, I just want to say one other very important provision of this bill. Am I going over time?
No, you're fine.
Okay. Is the provision dealing with the prohibiting of the government from mandating that software manufacturers and electronic device manufacturers put a backdoor on every cell phone, tablet, mobile device to enable them to overcome encryption or any other privacy protections that we may choose to use on our devices. Allowing the government to do this would essentially be a de facto repeal of the Fourth Amendment when it came to our cell phones and tablets. And it could very easily lead to a collection of a total surveillance state. There are ways to ensure the government can collect necessary information for a legitimate criminal investigation where they have probable cause without saying, go ahead and just hack into everybody's cell phone. Those who think that I might be engaging in hyperbole, ask yourselves, what if someone with the attitude and the ambitions of a J. Edgar Hoover somehow became in charge of one of our modern agencies like the FBI again or the NSA, and they had the power to get backdoor access to all of our cell phones or tablets? That's what we're talking about. Remember, the Constitution is designed to restrain men and women because, as Madison said, if people were angels, the Constitution would not be necessary. But it is, and that's why we bind them down with the chains of the Constitution, and that's why it's the job of Congress to oversee the executive branch. And the first step to that is to make sure they're following the Constitution and make sure that you have a way of knowing what it is that they are doing. And this bill is a very important step to that. And that's why Campaign for Liberty and Dr. Ron Paul is very proud to support this bill.